Do you ever wonder what it would be like to live next door to people who are so spectacularly uninterested in the world right outside their window that they actually hear everything, but do absolutely nothing about it? Let me introduce you to the residents of 12 Maple Drive. They've mastered the art of total inaction in the face of glorious chaos. On a regular Tuesday at around 6:30 p.m., I, being your faithful narrator, was leisurely enjoying a cup of tea. It was a wonderfully ordinary moment. A gentle breeze drifted through my open window. I heard a faint thud. Then another. Then possibly a muffled cry. So what did I do? Well, I paused my tea sipping to listen harder, of course. Because when you hear mysterious thuds next door, it would be very odd not to abandon your beverage mid-sip. Then, right on cue, I heard the unmistakable sound of glass shattering. A crash so dramatic that if it had occurred on stage, the audience would have given a standing ovation. I looked across. Windows shattered. Curtains afloat like startled jellyfish. A neighbor, let's call her Mrs. Jenkins, stood poised in her hallway, mouth agape, eyes wide. She looked absolutely startled, or perhaps stunned into immobility. Down the street, Mr. Patel shuffled out. He held his evening paper in one hand, a cup of coffee in the other. He squinted suspiciously, then popped another spoonful of sugar into his coffee as if nothing had happened. I'll give him credit. If this were a competition in maintaining one's calm while chaos reigned, Mr. Patel would be a gold medalist. Meanwhile, Mrs. Nguyen, who'd apparently been watering her begonias, looked over, nodded gently, then continued watering. I admired that sense of composure. Not one eyelid twitched. I, on the other hand, considered frantically dialing emergency services. But instead, I opted for a bold new approach. I stomped over to my window, peered out, and called, half laughing, half offended, "Hey, are you okay next door?" I heard all the ruckus. Silence. Absolute, deafening, polite silence. One might expect at least a faint, "Thank you for your concern," or, "Please mind your own business." But no. They were silent. Judging by the muted curtains, no one was home, or maybe everyone was practicing advanced meditation. At that precise moment, I realized, these neighbors are the urban equivalent of statues. Beautiful, well-maintained, and utterly inert. They have perfected the art of observing nothing, saying nothing, doing nothing. Now, let us rewind a bit to appreciate just how consistent this behavior is. Last Saturday morning, there was a minor flood. A rogue garden hose sprung a leak, right on the edge of Mrs. Jenkins's driveway. Within minutes, water cascaded across the pavement. People walking their dogs had to jump sidelong like fancy ballerinas. From my porch, I observed the crowd of neighbors, half a dozen, perhaps, gathered like curious giraffes on stilts. They watched the torrent. They murmured. They tilted their heads. But not one soul fetched a bucket or offered a rag. They just watched the water flow. In precisely the same casual way, last month the power flickered during stormy weather. We heard eerie booms, cracked tree branches, and then silence across the street. No torches lit. No concerned bursts to ensure everyone was okay. Just the steady hum of oblivion. One day, there was a cat. A fluffy, perturbed feline that had somehow wedged itself into a tight spot between two fencing panels. It meowed in a manner that suggested existential terror. What did the neighbors do? They paused. They stared. Silent spectators to feline distress. Finally, after 10 minutes of anguished mewing, which, by the way, is emotionally exhausting to witness, I fetched a stick, gently got the cat free, and returned it to its owner. And do you think anyone thanked me? Of course not. They simply smiled politely, as though they'd witnessed a magic trick. Now let's talk about the weekly Sunday band practice that happens in my basement. I won't pretend it's Mozart or Beyoncé. Let's just say it's experimental acoustic jazz, if by experimental you mean terribly out of tune, and by acoustic you mean my neighbor's window rattles at 2 p.m. every Sunday. And still, what do the neighbors do? They sigh. Their walls vibrate in sympathetic agony. They sigh again. Then, in the glorious tradition of living statues, they do nothing. I've concluded that our neighborhood operates under an unspoken principle. If something strange happens, do sit down and watch politely. But never, under any circumstances, help or comment. It's like a zero intervention zone, except that they hear everything. This sets the stage for a philosophical question. Is silence truly golden? Or is it the sound of social apathy wearing rose-tinted glasses? Let's examine the possibilities. One theory. They've all taken a vow of non-interference. Like monastic neighbors who believe that getting involved is ethically impure. Your fence collapses? That's your learning experience. Your cat is in trouble? It must resolve existential dilemmas on its own. Another theory. They're conducting a social experiment. Maybe they're collecting data on human behavior. Like, let's see how many times we can witness terrifying events and remain unhelpful. 5, 6, 10 times. What's the upper limit? A twisted kind of neighborly horripilation experiment. Or, brace yourself. They might believe that it's impolite to interfere. That offering help is intrusive. So they interpret that faint crash in your living room as a private moment. Let's not realize it's dangerous. Let's pretend it's fine. We'll just posture, remain statues, and, hey, no one's dead yet. I find it fascinating. It's as if social norms have evolved into an invisible force field against caring. Imagine living in a neighborhood where kindness is the exception, not the rule. But here's the truly revolutionary bit. What if being that neighbor, that one who does something, is actually the fun one? The memorable one? I've decided to reclaim the narrative. Next time I hear a crash, or a suspicious thud, or see a cat in existential peril, I'll flounce across the lawn in a cascade of good intentions. I'll bring bandages, or buckets, or flashlights, or maybe a kazoo just to cut through the tension with a musical flourish. I'll be the neighbor who actually responds. And when Mrs. Jenkins, Mr. Patel, Mrs. Nguyen, and the rest of the statues muster their trademark polite silence, I'll just wave and say, you know, I heard everything. Want some help? Who knows, maybe I'll start a mini revolution. Maybe our little street will evolve from heard everything, did nothing, to heard everything, did something. Maybe with a kazoo involved. Ah, neighbors. Browsing life's oddities through your window, ready to watch but never to act. It's a talent. It's an art form. It's mildly annoying. Yet I can't help but love it. Because every statue has a story, and maybe just one bold, slightly zany neighbor can spark a new chapter. The moral of the story? It's not enough to hear the world unfold around you. Sometimes, you've got to stand up, walk over, and get involved. Even if it's just to say, hey, I heard. Are you okay? And maybe, just maybe, those statues next door will realize that action, not silence, is the most neighborly thing of all.